I've been called many things in my life, but the title I once wore with the most pride was loyal brother. For over 2 decades, I was seen as a model of integrity, trustworthy, balanced, a true servant of faith. I carried my Bible under my arm, my tie always perfectly straight. I was invited to give speeches in other congregations, lead meetings, counsel struggling couples, and I did it all with zeal, believing wholeheartedly that I was fulfilling God's will. I never questioned. I never hesitated, until that night, until that silent moment when I stood frozen, staring at the wooden box in the corner of the hall. That box had always been there, unassuming, nearly invisible. The brothers would pass by, drop their donation envelopes inside, and walk to their seats with lightened souls, as if they had performed a sacred duty. And I did the same, not only contributing my own money, but teaching others to do so as well. We were told that giving was an act of faith, and faith, my friend, is not to be questioned. But that night, something shifted. I had been assigned to lock up the hall after the meeting. The silence was heavy, the only light coming from the entrance. As I moved to turn off the switches, something made me pause in front of that box. I stood there, staring, as if seeing it for the first time. I don't know if it was exhaustion or God nudging me from within, but a single question struck me like lightning. Do we even know where this money goes? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the thought. This is the enemy's doing, I told myself. But the discomfort didn't fade. It clung to me like a tick, burrowing deeper. I remembered how often we were told there was no clergy, that we were all equal. But if that were true, why did so few have access to the details? In the days that followed, the unease only grew. Respected as I was in the congregation, I requested to assist with the accounting. No one found it strange after all. I had always been diligent. But when I faced the first reports, I realized things weren't as transparent as they claimed. Certain transactions caught my attention, large sums transferred to unfamiliar accounts. The more I read, the clearer it became. This was only the surface. What lay beneath would shake me in ways I never imagined. At first, I tried to convince myself it was all normal. There must be an explanation, I repeated, as if to silence the restless voice inside me. I pored over the reports, tracing numbers, reading vague notes written as if they weren't meant to be understood. Authorized transfer to international fund. International fund? Since when did we have that? I asked the brother in charge of finances, younger than me, but fiercely devoted. A good man. Yet the moment I mentioned those transactions, his expression changed. His voice dropped, tense. Those matters are handled at another level. Another level? What level? If there was no clergy, what was this hierarchy no one spoke of? I had preached for years that we were all equals, that no elite existed. But now, it seemed there was a layer above one that moved money without explanation. That night, I lay awake, thinking of the widows who gave what little they had, the humble brothers who worked odd jobs just to contribute. And now I saw enormous sums being sent to accounts no one recognized. Something wasn't right. The next day, I approached Ernesto, one of the oldest elders, a man who had seen the congregation grow from nothing. We had walked side by side for years as brothers. I spoke carefully, showing him the reports, voicing my concerns, and that's when I realized something much larger was at play. His response was cold, evasive. Let it go, brother. You don't know what you're getting into. His words chilled me to the bone. You don't know where you're stepping. But how? Weren't we on the same side? Weren't we about truth and transparency? I had known Ernesto for over 20 years, seen him weep in prayer, hold the hands of the sick, sacrifice family trips to organize conventions. And now he was telling me to stay silent. Was it fear or complicity? That's when I noticed something I'd never seen before, how deeply we had been conditioned to obey without question. the speeches, the magazines, the meetings all taught that doubt was spiritual weakness. That true faith meant blind trust. The word obedience was repeated like a mantra, and with every doubt that arose in my heart, the automatic thought followed. Careful, brother. This could be the enemy's influence. But was the enemy the one asking questions or the one hiding answers? I took a bolder step. I volunteered to review the congregation's old files, claiming I wanted to help reorganize the records. No one suspected. For days, I sifted through folders, boxes, spreadsheets. The deeper I dug, the more my stomach turned. There were repeated transfers, always to the same account, but the name wasn't the congregation's, nor the national branch. It was something vague, Administrative Support Association. It sounded noble. But when I searched, I found no public record. This wasn't an error. It was concealment. Needed proof. And I had no idea it was closer than I thought. So close I nearly stumbled over it. One Tuesday afternoon. The hall was empty. Silent. I was preparing materials for a special meeting when I spotted a black folder wedged between the benches. A red stamp on the corner read, "Confidential." I froze. No one was around. The silence was so deep, even the wall clock seemed to stop. I didn't want to touch it, but my fingers moved on their own. Inside were bank statements, wire transfers, handwritten notes, all pointing to accounts in the U.S., Switzerland, even the Cayman Islands. Large sums, funneled from congregations like ours into names I'd never heard. This wasn't spiritual. It was financial. And it was deliberate. I closed the folder, heart pounding. That night, I barely slept. A few days later, I was summoned to a private meeting with the elders. Their expressions were stern. "Brother Louise," the oldest began, "we've heard you've been expressing concerns that could confuse the congregation." I kept my voice steady. I only raised administrative questions. Isn't stewardship part of our duty? When doubt takes root, another replied coldly, "The enemy finds cracks." Then came the hammer blow. "You've been removed as an elder. For your own spiritual good." I walked out in silence, the world spinning. But the worst rupture wasn't with the congregation. It was with my wife, Elsa. That night, she barely looked at me. When she finally spoke, her words cut deep. "This happens when we think we're wiser than the faithful slave." I tried to explain the documents, the hidden accounts, the letter I'd found, but she only shook her head. "This is a test. The enemy uses doubt to pull us away. And if it's not doubt," I whispered, "what if it's the truth knocking?" Her eyes held no anger, only fear. The fear of displeasing God. The fear of being left behind. Our son Samuel, once devoted, now looked at me with suspicion. "Dad, is it true you're being disloyal?" That hurt more than any elder's judgment, but I wasn't alone. A brother from another congregation, Jonas, reached out. He, too, had seen the discrepancies. And when he handed me an envelope filled with damning proof bank records, internal reports, I knew I couldn't stay silent. I recorded my testimony and posted it online. The backlash was immediate: accusations of apostasy, betrayal. But among the hate, messages began pouring in from others who had seen the same. I thought I was going crazy. "Thank you for speaking what I couldn't." Even Ernesto, the elder who had warned me, sent a confession. "What you exposed is true. I saw it. I signed it. I stayed silent." Then the news picked it up. Former elder exposes $1 million scheme within congregation. The story went viral. Pastors, ex-members, even a lawyer who had worked inside the system all came forward with proof. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. But the most painful revelation wasn't in the numbers. It was in the faces, the ones who had been silenced, shunned, broken. A wall of photographs in a small church showed the real cost. Widow disfellowshipped for reporting abuse. A young man expelled for asking too many questions. Couple who lost custody of their child for refusing medical dogma. This wasn't just about money. It was about shattered lives. In the end, I made one final video. Not in anger, but in clarity. True faith doesn't fear the light, I said. Because God doesn't hide behind vaults. He walks among the humble, the questioning, the ones who dare to say, enough. If this story resonates with you, you're not alone. Questioning isn't rebellion. It's the deepest act of faith, because only those who love the truth dare to face it.